Good evening friends, welcome to this video. World War III warning. Okay, so there has been a World War III warning which has actually been given by Russia. What is this warning about? Why Russia has given this warning, and what is the backstory about this warning of World War III? That we will learn in this video. So basically, this confrontation that we are talking about here is about Russia and NATO. Okay, so we got to see news of this type, like Russia warns of World War III if Ukraine joins NATO. Okay, so this is the main point. Again, in another news, you can see Russia warns of World War III if Ukraine joins NATO alliance. Again, another news, Russia's Security Council official warns of World War III if Ukraine is admitted to NATO. This warning which Russia has given is all centered around Ukraine's joining the NATO military alliance. But what is the backstory? Why Russia does not like NATO? We have to check a few points. But before that, the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, he considers that Ukraine and Russia are significantly similar. So basically, for him, there is no difference between Ukraine or Ukrainian people and Russian people. Therefore, maybe he wants to join Ukraine in Russia, and that was one of the reasons why he attacked Ukraine. And also there are some other reasons, like he wanted to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine, and those were also other reasons stated for his Ukraine invasion or military operation, a special military operation which started in February 2022. But majority of the Ukrainians, they don't want to be identified as Russians, and they want separate identity. Okay, so what happened? Basically, there was a Ukrainian president, Mr. Viktor Yanukovych, who was backed by Russia, and he denied or he did not want to join NATO. There was a huge speculation that back then Ukraine would join NATO, but being Russia backed, so he did not let that happen, and there was an uprising. There was resistance to Viktor Yanukovych's decision, and then he stepped down and he fled to Russia in the year 2014. But what happened in the same year, in 2014, Volodymyr Zelensky, he was elected as the president of Ukraine, and who would often defy Putin. Okay, so Mr. Zelensky was not Russia supporting one, but he would support the West, the European Union, and also NATO. So as a result, Russian President Putin attacked and annexed Crimea in the year 2014. But again, we have to understand a little bit about NATO. What is NATO? NATO was formed in the year 1949, which is basically a military alliance to counter the erstwhile Soviet Union. Although the Soviet Union does not exist anymore, but several former Soviet Union, several countries were formed after the disintegration of Soviet Union. So several Soviet states, ex-Soviet states like Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania, they have joined NATO formally. Okay, they joined NATO. So Putin considers that NATO's eastward extension is a great threat to Russia's own security. Okay, so let us see that in a map. Let us try to understand that in a map. So you see these blue states, all these blue states like France, Spain, Germany, and then Czech Republic, Italy, Turkey, all are NATO members. Okay, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, they were once belonged to the Soviet Union. But other Soviet states like Belarus, here Ukraine and Georgia, they have not joined the NATO. In fact, Belarus is very much Russia oriented. Okay, so the present Belarusian president is a very much Russia oriented or Mr. Putin backed guy. But two other ex-Soviet states, both Georgia and Ukraine, they have been trying to join the NATO for quite some time. They showed up their intent to join the NATO. And you see here, this is Russia, and most of these states, Western European states, are actually NATO members. So the expansion of NATO towards the east, towards Russia, Russia considers that to be a big security risk to them. Okay, already very close by countries to Russia like Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, they have joined the NATO. Although these countries are quite small, maybe that is why Russia does not give them that much importance. But when Ukraine talks about joining the NATO, Ukraine is a quite big country, you can see. So that did not go well with the Russian leader, President Putin. So, since NATO is mainly led by the United States, and therefore Russia will never want United States presence in its border. Maybe if in Ukraine, somewhere in Ukraine here, United States makes a base, okay, and so which would be quite close to Russia. So Russia would certainly take that to as a security risk. Okay. So therefore, citing several such reasons, so Russia started attacking Ukraine. Okay, Belarus is already Russia oriented. So, and also Russia took help of Belarus while attacking Ukraine. Okay, so these are the main reasons why Russia considers the expansion of NATO as a great threat to its own security. So recently, several Ukrainian regions like Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson, they have been included in Russia as per a referendum. Okay, so yes, and Crimea was already annexed way back in 2014. So after Russia declared these regions as their own, all these new 4 regions, so Ukraine formally applied to join the NATO military alliance. So here you can see Ukrainian president with their application of joining the NATO. Ukraine applies for NATO membership. Okay, so Ukraine applies for NATO membership after Russia annexes territory. So these are the annexed territories. All these 4 territories we have already talked about. So certainly this did not go well with Russia again, because Russia earlier had some fear that Ukraine might join the NATO, and in order to stop Ukraine at any cost, so Russia attacked, or rather which Russia calls as special military operation, being carried out in Ukraine. And as a result of this, Mr. Alexander Venediktov, who is Russia's deputy secretary of Russia's Security Council, so he kind of threatened that if Ukraine is admitted to NATO, the ongoing war could escalate into World War III. Okay, so this is a big ultimatum given to both NATO and Ukraine. Already, why Russia does not like NATO, that we have discussed. If Ukraine is somehow admitted to NATO, that means the NATO forces, including those of United States, would be very close to Russian border, and that will certainly not go well with the Russian leadership. Mainly, that would go against Vladimir Putin, Russia's president's interests. So that is how the threat of this World War III has been given by Deputy Secretary of Russia's Security Council. His name is Alexander Venediktov. So he basically warned both the NATO authorities mainly So what he said, by helping Ukraine, they are direct party to the conflict. They are direct party means here he is mentioning about NATO. So NATO would be a direct party because NATO has a principle that if any member state is attacked, then that attack would be considered on all other member states. Okay, suppose if suppose if Germany is attacked, suppose Germany is a NATO member, then the attack on Germany would be collectively considered to be an attack on all NATO territories, all NATO countries. So that is what is here Mr. Alexander Venediktov means to say. If Ukraine is like inducted in NATO, that means NATO is directly involved in the war against Russia, direct party to the conflict. So he means that NATO would be the direct party in the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, and said NATO members privately understood the suicidal nature of admitting Kyiv to the group. And he also said that it is a kind of maybe it is a kind of propaganda by the NATO members of inviting Ukraine to join the military alliance, that would be suicidal nature of the organization NATO if they allow Kyiv means Ukraine, to join the NATO alliance. That means if NATO is involved, then that will be a full-blown war. Okay, and in such a war, it may be, if it is a very big scale war, so that would be kind of World War III, and where even nukes may be used. Okay, nukes by any party may be used. So this is the main thing, that was the main point of this discussion or of today's news, what he said, Alexander Venediktov. So that is how he mentioned that there could be World War III if Ukraine is allowed to join the NATO alliance. I hope this point is clear to you. We have to see in future what happens if Ukraine is allowed to join NATO or not, because joining NATO itself is not that an easy process. So around 30 member states are there in NATO whose approval is required. Okay, all NATO states should approve that Ukraine or any other new member who applies for NATO membership, that decision should be taken, or all these 30 nations should take a collective decision that okay, we can allow Ukraine or any other new applicant country to join the NATO alliance. So based on that, Ukraine will be inducted in NATO. So we'll have to see what happens in this direction in future, and also that would also determine the course of the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. So that was it, friends, and thank you very much for watching this video. If you have liked the video, please like it, share the video, and please subscribe to this channel. Thank you very much for watching this video.